Hey, Scott. Hi, Scott.
Hi. How are you?
You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Just hold. Yeah. It's like
Exactly.
weird feelings, and then when I'm in a trade, I'm like super nervous. Like you've got to be right. You know what I mean? Because if you're wrong, it's like yeah.
So here's how I want you to approach that. The mantra for this stuff is when in doubt, note it out. So whatever is going on for you, give it a word.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling anxious, you just say anxious.
Yeah.
You're feeling
Definitely anxious. Yeah. That's a
if you're
good word.
feeling crippling emotional pain or fear or
Mm.
even something banal or normal, like I can hear the air conditioning.
Mm.
So when I'm in a trade, I just sit there going, I can hear the air conditioning. I'm feeling
Right.
anxious.
Yeah.
I can feel my feet under the desk.
Yeah.
I'm feeling dry mouth from the air conditioner. I'm looking out the window. And you just keep going like that, and it stops you from getting stuck in your own shit. Because
Yeah.
what happens when you don't want to feel these unpleasant emotions that trading brings up, the first thing that happens is your brain starts to block out trades, and that's how you miss trades. Like
Yeah.
that's the actual mechanism. Like a trade will pop off, and you'll think, "Why didn't I take that? I was sitting there watching."
Yeah. 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 It's I mean, you're right. Like just observing what you're seeing, what you're feeling, and that physically in the physical, I guess, kind of takes you away from focusing on the charts and things like that. And yeah, I mean, for me, there's also this like, I've never, yes, I've been trading for 3, 4, 5 years, but I've never ever traded as a profit. So I've never taken a penny out of a trading account as profit ever, right? So I've just been this period, as you know, of one mentor to the next, one system to the next, looking until I found this. So I've never been in that experience, and there's always this feeling like, like why should it happen to me? Why should it, you know, like, oh, this can't carry on. You know what I mean? This can't keep working, and so
It's interesting.
there's a lot of emotion and a lot of feeling.
What we're talking about is fear.
Sorry,
What we're talking about is fear.
it is fear. You're right. Fear of success and fear of failure. It's like fear both ways.
Mm.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, man. This is not an easy game.
Yeah, but I'm determined to get over that because, and that's why when I saw that you developing the Holy Grail system, like, sort of short time frames, black and white rules, I thought, right, that is something that I can hang my hat on. And, and as the system started developing and it started performing, I'm really going to work on losing that fear and trust the system, just trust it, but also take on board what you say. When you're in a trade, you don't have to watch it. Like I'm not scalping and having to physically exit a trade myself when I think it's right. It's there,
But
it's
it's
set
not
up.
only
I know I'm
it's not
losing 1R
it's not
or winning.
taking off.
Yeah.
So it's not only that you don't have to watch it; it's actually harmful to watch it. So
Yeah.
the way I like to think about it is, um, you've got $1 worth of attention, and how do you want to spend it? I can spend $1 worth of attention. I can spend 50 cents of the $1 worth of attention that I've got, just by like writing this trade like it's a football team. Score, goal, whatever.
Yeah.
Or I can spend that doing an extra hour of trading. So what you're going to find is when you pay close attention to the trades you're in, your capability of being at peak performance is probably under an hour.
Right.
Like really.
Yeah.
Um, if you want to do 4 or 5 hours of this, you just have to chill on that shit. Like it just doesn't work any other way.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. But I mean, you can empathize, right? You can understand because I'm sure you've been there yourself. And
everything you've ever done wrong, I've
yeah.
done worse wrong. So no,
Yeah. And as the position size ramps up, that it shouldn't make a difference, but it will. And those are things I'm going to have to deal with. So yeah.
all right. So I'm waiting on a drop. If it becomes high and tight, I'll I'll try and get in. Otherwise, we'll wait for it to hit the upper Bollinger and see what
Can I ask you a
happens.
quick question on the trade? And it might sound really stupid. So when on the 2-minute chart, when we enter low vola, okay, if we
Mhm.
enter low vola mode,
Mhm.
is low vola always a touch of a Bollinger at least?
No, but decreasing vol is two things. Thing one is we must be trending up, or we must be trending.
Yeah, on the
Thing
2-minute
two,
or on the
on the
5
two,
and 10.
no, on whatever time frame it is, because
S-
don't forget decreasing vol can be a confirming evidence as well.
Right. So on the 2-minute, we've got to be trending up. So that implies there has to be some form of trend, whether we're closing in, whether we're walking up the Bollinger mode, or whether we are genuinely
No,
trending.
trending by the first definition, which is one touch of the Bollinger,
Yeah.
and then two, a single bar that makes a higher high and a higher close.
Yeah. Okay. So it doesn't have to be, but that can still be below the Bollinger, right? But so long as it's a
Yeah,
higher
absolutely.
high and a higher close.
Absolutely. Okay,
Right.
so
Okay. And then
and
we
then
can
thing
enter low
two,
vola after that, right? But so there is always a Bollinger touch before, like
there
you
has
could
to
be
there
within the
has to be.
Bollinger bands and be like a a lowest low or highest high on low vola, but you're not
So
in that mode.
you can see my my charts, right?
Yeah.
So for example, um, we start trending on this bar, right?
Yep.
We've got a higher high and a higher close than, well, actually we start trending the bar before. So we got a touch of the Bollinger, higher high, higher close.
Yep.
We can, this bar here or this bar here that aren't outside the Bollinger, these could easily pop us into decreasing volume.
Yeah.
Even though this one here, right here, even though it didn't, it could.
It could have. Okay. Because we're still trending and we haven't broken the, we haven't stopped trending at that. So while we're trending, any bar that is a
Okay,
high on low
so we're
vola
making it,
tick. Yeah.
and so now we've got our first touch of the Bollinger.
Mm-hmm.
When we get, and this bar, so now we're in a second, as soon as we get a second bar with a higher high and a higher close, we could easily drop into decreasing vol here.
Yeah. Yeah, because
In
we're
fact,
hitting.
we're likely to. You can see that. You can see that just the way that's making, that's probably going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, watching these ATRs in real time, they do flip around quite sharply as well.
Yeah.
Like the current ATR.
Yeah.
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 Cool.
No doubt. Okay, so the big thing for this week that I want you to do is, how are you keeping track of time? Have you got a clock with the seconds on it, or are you're using Windows, right?
Yeah.
So in the settings for your clock, just change the display to be minutes and seconds, right?
What are you talking about on the?
The clock display for your time, because you need to be keeping track of the time all of the time.
Sorry, which time are you talking about? The platform time or your actual?
Well, it should be the same, right? The system time, like whatever time. Like these bars roll over every 2 minutes, and you need to know when a bar is rolling over.
Oh, I
You
see.
need to be
Sorry.
ready.
On my chart, I've got a little candle countdown thing, which is quite handy.
Okay.
So right next to the current bar tells me on each time frame.
Okay. So
in 21 seconds, this bar closes. So I've got that right next to the candle all the time.
but it looks like we're not going to close in trending mode. So the implication of that is that we're potentially setting up for a short. We've got 3 touches of Bollinger. We've got a lower close. We've got almost certainly a lower close in 2, 1, bam. Yeah, and now we're on we get a higher close and we're good to go. So now we have
Depending
to start looking at.
depending how high and tight this is. At the moment,
Okay,
it's too far.
So the first thing that you want to do when this starts setting up is just perform a rough calculation.
Yeah.
So say that, just so you know where shit is.
Mm-hmm.
So the high is 73.5, so that's 74. If it closes here, that's 65.5.
So that's
It's
9.
9.5.
So that will take us down to 65.5. Will take us down to 50, 57, somewhere down
56.
there. 56. So that's
So the low here is 56.7. So that's just not good enough. Oh, so it's just a little bit too far. Now, if that was in the direction of the trend, that would be okay. So what we're hoping for is another bar that comes up here.
So yeah, so those are the only things that I've seen, like the definition, not the definition of high and tight, but when it's high and tight seems to be the only little discretionary. And I think for me, if we're trending, give more leeway on the high and tight definition, and if we counter trending, then only take something that you're really comfortable with, that puts you in a in a reasonable pullback area. That
Exactly.
And I think I'm going to be on myself quite strict on that.
And it's only ever difficult when you're in like this situation here. Here it's very, very straightforward because you've got an obvious place. There's no argument. Like if it's 1 pip below, if it's a 0.1 pip below here, you can't take it. End of story. End of story. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Not good enough. We need another upper.
Yeah. The commissions on my platform are way too high. I'm gonna have to find like
that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, on that commission on that last trade was $12. And okay, on that's on 50R, right? So I was just risking 50, but it was a minimum viable R. So that trade I won $74, but $12 in commission.
That's point.
Sorry,
what were you risking?
So I'm trading 50 Rs.
50.
50. And because that last trade was a minimum viable R, so we had nice profit there. So my profit was $74.
Yeah, that's way too high.
And there was $12 commission on top of that.
At 12 out of 50 over time is not. Yeah, that's right.
It's too high, isn't it?
It's too high.
And it was only two lots.
There's other workarounds. We can look at futures. We can where the commissions are much lower. But yeah, that's too high. It should be about It should be between 0.1 and 0.13.
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting pretty much raw spread though, so I'm not losing out on the spread really.
Yeah, the spread is. You're entering on a stop limit, right?
I'm entering on a buy stop and a sell stop, not on a limit. So it's like a pending order.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So it looks to me like we're going to have another attempt at the high. So we're probably 2 bars in real terms away from setting up for a setup that we can take. Right?
Yeah. So
right now you're starting to develop like the feeling for what can happen, what's likely to happen. If it goes down from here, fuck it. I don't want to be in that trade. It's just not a good risk return. That's not the sort of thing we do. If we get a nice tight entry up here, I'm all over that. Let's see how it plays out.
See, so your highs on TradingView is the highs 735, so the stop would be 740. On my platform, the high is 734, so my stop would be 735.
Significant difference.
Do you remember? I think I remember reading once of some of your early workings as well. Was if you had a bar that was a real spike high with a long upper wick, that the stop could reasonably be placed not above the high of that, but like halfway down or something.
So we experimented with that when you got a spike that was a long way outside the Bollinger. Now I still think that's viable, but I've never collected enough data to make a
because that would allow you to enter, yeah, and become more high and tight, but then you are sort of, yeah, potentially. Because you could have like a big spike that actually, that's the Bollinger Touch bar, that's the setup, well, the Bollinger Touch, and it's almost, it could be a hammer. I mean, a shooting star.
Sometimes you get one that's like 5 pips outside the Bollinger, and you don't need to place a stop that far away, and all the usual shit. Personally, that's the sort of thing. Discretion and bending the rules is the kind of thing you do once you've got a track record of doing it perfectly for a year or two. Like once all this team, and you don't have to think about it anymore, and then you've got the expertise that makes sense to bend the rules here.
Yeah.
And you can trust yourself doing it.
Yeah.
Like if there's a reason for it and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Okay. This doesn't look like setting up.
No, not to me.
No.
You never know.
You never know.
Like a top. Yeah. Looks like a top to me.
Yeah, if I'm looking left, it does look like it's hit an area of resistance, doesn't it? And remember, it's like 8:30 in the morning in the UK. The London trade session will open up. That brings, some more volatility into the market, I guess.
Okay, maybe we will get an entry group.
Yeah, possibly.
So you can see that you think that doing this real time is harder than doing it on the chart, historically. But it's in some respects it's easier, in some respects it's harder. Like I would say 3 out of 4 days it's probably easier, and then one day it becomes devilishly difficult.
Yeah, got you. Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Because if you get a difficult trading day where it's little hammers and little shooting stars and in low vola and out of low vola and stuff like that.
In and out of the vola. If you get those days, there's nothing that says you can't just, whoa, hands off, I'm done. Those days tend to be pretty profitable.
Because those are the days you might just make a mistake or two as well.
Yeah. Also, those are the days that really, really build skill. Like if you can do that, there've been a couple of days when I've taken like 10 trades in a day, and I've walked away going, wow, I'm really doing this at a black belt level right now. Like that was good.
Like the other day, 2 days ago, when you did that review on video, and there was that sneaky, I missed it, that sneaky little hammer candle, where you literally were one tick closed inside the bottom half to give you a shooting star, I think, or hammer. I can't remember which way it was. Like in real time, like I just don't know if I'd catch that trade. That would require supreme execution.
I would have to say that's very, very difficult to do. It's okay when the volatility is really low because you have a preset order with 3 pip stop, 3.5 pip target, and don't worry too much about getting the position sizing right. Just bang it on quickly. Like don't fill up the spreadsheet. Just bang it on.
But that was a particularly tiny little hammer, I think. Or shooting, I think it was a shooting star, I can't remember, but it was very tiny, so there wasn't much of a, the price didn't have to move much to take you into that trade. So that would have been a tough one.
Like that one a couple of bars ago, if we were in decreasing volume, like that. It seems like it's hard, but you can see the market often gives you a chance to get in on a limit order. Like if you placed a limit order even a couple of minutes later, you'd be a pretty decent chance of getting filled.
Yeah. On MT4, you've got quite a nice feature when, if you've got your crosshair on, you can place it like just above where the high is, and then you left click and it drags a line down, and then it actually tells you how many pips that is. So you can quickly gauge where the target will be, because you go, right, if that's my entry, if that's my high, that's my entry, that's 11 pips, and then you take it from the entry and you go another 11 pips down, and it shows you kind of where you will be if you had to take that trade. So that it's a nice little feature on MT4
Okay,
they've
so
got.
I'm going to recalculate and make sure that I didn't fuck up here. And the
Yeah.
low on this part 2 bars ago was 66, so that's 65.5, and the stop is 74. So that's 8.5 to 9.5. So we're still in the same spot. Still, so 9.5 minus 59.5 minus 9.5 is 50, and sorry, is 69.5. No,
And we've still got
65.
confirming evidence is good.
No, it's still just too far.
It is a bit too far, yeah. And like I said, and confirming evidence is still good.
Yeah, this looks to me like it's probably going to make fresh highs and run away now. Who would know? Okay, so how long are you planning on trading to? Which is another good question. Now that we're starting to, you started at.
I started at 7, so an hour before our call. So
So
I'll be going an hour and a half.
You're an hour and a half. And what were you planning? You were planning on doing 3, 4, something like that?
So at least 3.
Okay, I'd like you to do 2.
Okay.
Because you're perfect up till now, right?
Yeah.
So let's be very clear. The goal was perfection. We're an hour and a half in, got 25 minutes to go. Like, let's steel ourselves to do another 25 minutes absolutely mistake-free, and that's a day of perfect trading. It hasn't been a particularly easy day.
Yeah. Yeah. Are things in Bangkok? Are people slowly coming out again, or not yet?
It's just quiet.
Yeah.
They're shut, opening Phuket at the end of the month, and we'll probably be open in another couple of weeks. So,
Yeah.
It's also hot as balls here right now too.
Sorry, it's what? Oh, hot.
It's like Satan's nutsack outside.
Really? Wow.
Terrible outside. I went out before to do some jiu-jitsu and immediately regretted it. Did my first sparring.
What, just practicing by yourself, or?
No. I met some friends. We moved some mats into a buddy's living room, and I met 3 of my mates, and we did some sparring. And
Okay.
yeah, I had
So
to
you're not too fussed about being around people.
Well, they've all been tested, so I haven't been around anyone. So
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And there was 20 new cases in Bangkok yesterday, so it's really under control now.
Yeah. I got a suspicion that this virus has got a lifespan, and it's going to disappear off this planet as quickly as it arrived.
I got no idea.
That's my theory.
I don't know. It certainly seems like proper precautions can keep it under control. So and it's really only harmful to old people, and I wouldn't want to get it though.
No, we've had some young, healthy people die from it, but you just wonder, do they have undiagnosed underlying conditions?
Well, it's also about how much of the virus you get in yourself too.
Correct.
So like these doctors who are getting it from like 20 different people, young healthy doctors are dying from it.
Yeah.
Like dying en masse.
And they're also saying that there's been different strains of it around the world as well, like it mutates into different things, and
that's the way viruses work. Like they spread by replication, mutating. All right, so it looks like we might get a lower Bollinger touch.
I tell you what, though, there's going to be a lot of anti-China sentiment after this, whether rightly or wrongly.
So out of control here. Like there's this uh, Thailand-China Twitter war going on. That's just out of control. It's like uh,
Really.
the Thais versus the Chinese. It's hilarious. It's the Chinese. The Chinese always criticize the Thais, say your prime minister's an idiot, and they're like, yeah, we know, and your country's corrupt. It's like, yeah, we know, and you can't criticize Thais because and we hate your king. It's like, yeah, we hate him too. And like, it's hilarious.
Yeah. But on a serious note, I mean,
And
China, there could be some real sort of
it feels
whether.
like a march towards war, doesn't it? It
Sorry?
feels like it's like a prelude to people saying, well, you have to pay. You have to pay for the virus that destroyed our economies.
That, and people might start boycotting made in China, you know what I mean? Whether that's
Sure.
even possible, I don't know.
We should have thought about that before we started manufacturing 99% of everything that we use in China. That would
Yeah.
probably be the smart.
I mean, Scott, what's going on in Africa, if you look at the amount of government contracts that China is in control of around Africa, so they go in with their billions, they offer them to these corrupt African leaders, and they say, yeah, we'll build you roads and bridges, and yeah, we'll grease your pockets as well. Give us rights to your minerals, to your fishing waters. In South Africa, they are just these super fishing boats are just ripping everything out of the oceans, whether they are legal, illegal, they're just throwing away the shit, pregnant, endangered species, fish, thing, you name it. It's really shocking.
Yeah, I've seen what those factory
Fuck.
fishing boats.
Hey man,
Terrible.
those factory fishing boats, they are just ruthless. They take, they do everything at sea. They catch it, they process it, they even tin it, some of it, can it right out at
There's
sea.
20 boats that catch 10% of the world's fish, or something. It's something ridiculous like that. Like
They just,
some.
yeah. But the rights to mineral rights and infrastructure projects around Africa is like they've really taken advantage.
The nations that have traditionally been Australian influenced, like the Fijis, the Naurus, the Solomon Islands,
Hmm.
all those kind of little Pacific, all the Samoas and places like that. They're doing exactly the same thing with the corrupt governments there, and give us support. And
Yeah.
we'll give you money for this, we'll give you money for that, and we'll grease, and we don't mind paying bribes, which Australians won't do.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind wealthy countries coming in and helping if it's genuine. You scratch my back, I'll scratch. It's good for both. But I think that always leads to corruption somewhere along the line. Yeah.
All right.
So that negative crude oil price was crazy, wasn't it? What a fucking hell.
I had a very anxious day yesterday.
Yeah. Are you in any of those?
Yeah, I'm short June. So I woke up, saw what the fuck. I immediately thought that my data must have been broken because I'm short and it's showing negative fucking 30. And I'm like, no, it's not right. And I quickly Googled and I'm like, yes. And then I checked the month that I'm actually in, it didn't drop barely anything at all. And I was like, oh fuck. And I had one of those days where you watch the chart for like 12 fucking hours and completely emotionally crippled by the whole thing, and I was just ready to curl up in a ball and cry, and tear myself away from the screen, and then I finally switched it off, and I woke up this morning and June had fallen substantially. But
yeah. So what are those? Are those futures contracts, or what are they?
Yeah, the futures. That's all I trade.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know anything about that side of the world. That side of trading.
The way it works is that most contracts have a couple of different ones a year, but futures and natural gas have one for every month, and they close at the close of trading on the third Friday of every month. So if you're holding them at that time, you have to take delivery.
Yeah.
And if you don't take and if not, you get a bill for a grain elevator, and you have to pay for insurance and storage and all that shit. And so
Yeah.
what happened is the CME contract, where most of the world's futures get traded, is not where most of the world's physical crude gets traded. Most of the world's physical crude gets traded as Brent crude or out of Singapore, and West Texas Intermediate is out of Oklahoma. So there's a finite amount of storage capacity in Oklahoma, and even though it's the most liquid futures contract, it trades like $100 billion worth of day volume. Like, it's bullshit big. And so what happened is it was like 2 days to expiry on the May contract, and there's no more storage capacity. So if you're still holding it, you have to, like natural gas, you can just let off into the air, right? Like crude oil, you can't just have an oil slick. Like, they're not about that. So you need to find a tank. And so what happened is, the same way that a hotel will jack the price when you're the last available hotel room, exactly the same thing. And so they were charging. So the price.
So if you've got storage capacity, you can just charge what you want.
All the companies which have crude oil storage capacity are up like 300% since the last crisis.
Wow.
Since the crisis. And every shipping tanker is being used not to ship oil, but just to park it,
just to store
it as a storage.
Yeah. Wow.
And so the rates for shipping tanker have gone like 8-fold since this all started too. So crazy.
Wow. So people are saying like, there's a massive excess of milk here, right? Because like all the restaurants, hotels, they're not buying milk. So farmers can kind of like, they can dump milk in a field, right? You can dump it, but you can't dump oil. You need somewhere to put it.
What here is there's a big ETF called USO, which I think is probably going to blow up. And so they own, when retail buyers want to buy oil, they buy USO, and USO buys the futures contracts, and at the end of every month, they roll the futures contracts over. So they sell, 50,000 contracts, and they buy 50,000 contracts in the new one, and they do that every 4 weeks. But the problem is that they're 30% of the market now, and everyone knows when they're going to do and what they're going to do and when they're going to have to do it. They have to buy oil every month for this ETF, and so they couldn't get out of their position. They were just stuck. They were stuck owning. Yeah, actually, USO wasn't one of the ETFs. USO got out, but it's going to happen again this month for sure. And I think the June contract is going to go negative because if all their tanks were full up before, no one's.
Yeah.
Those tanks aren't any emptier. Those tanks are, if anything, more full. Like, it's going to be and the difference between this and the other crises is the other things that have happened bad so far, you can just print money and paper over the cracks. You can't print, there's no amount of money that helps this situation. Like, a bailout to the oil producers doesn't help. Oil's still going to go negative.
Yeah.
It doesn't help doesn't help anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So.
Yeah, we've just gone kind of sideways at the moment.
So see how that Bollinger is pinching. That is a very strong. That's a decrease in volatility. That's what a Bollinger is calculated on standard deviation. Standard deviation is a measure of volatility. So when the Bollinger pinches like that, you can expect a strong move after it touches. So a Bollinger touch to the downside here would be a very, very strong setup, or to the upside for that matter.
So a Bollinger touch on the low Bollinger for a long entry.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because we're trending. We're still trending nicely up. We've got confirming evidence on the 5 and 10. Yeah. Yeah, I used to work for before I worked for TK Maxx. Now for about 3.5 years before that, I worked for Gazprom Trading, and then I worked for EDF Trading.
Really?
So those two companies, right? So in the IT side, but obviously we had a trading floor with them trading, derivatives and futures and you know, ETFs and all sorts of things. And we had a guy come in and sort of teach us about futures and derivatives, exactly what you're talking about, and you know, where you're obligated to take delivery and some you aren't obligated and things like that. And he started teaching us about sort of some of the months or slightly the way the months don't end according to our calendar months always and things like that. Some months
they're
have,
all there's a whole
yeah,
bunch of like industry specific knowledge.
yeah,
So, for example, the closing price on crude oil is not the last price traded. The closing price is the volume weighted average price of the last 5 minutes of bid trading in the New York, in the Chicago bid, in the Chicago session. So
right,
there's like and for yeah, it's every contract is different, and they all have these weird little conventions.
yeah.
And
And I couldn't quite
some,
get my head around it.
like for example, November soybeans. For some reason, November is the most popular contract for soybeans, even at other times of the year. Like people just fucking love November beans. I don't know why.
Yeah.
So it's always been that way.
You know, we used
Okay,
to have, yeah, we've
what
got
to
a touch. Yeah. So obviously on our trading floor, we used to have all these derivative traders and quants and everything. And oh God, they had their heads were so up their own asses. It was fuck. You know, these guys come to work with their white shirts with, you know, sort of embroidered on their collars their initials and shit like that. You know,
Oh,
bunch of fucking wankers, absolute twats.
you know, they're not any better at this than we are, right?
Yeah,
They
I
are.
mean,
They are. Like, I've met a bunch of them at like Van Tharp conferences, and you know they're okay. There's what I will say is there's very few incompetents from that world. Like whereas in retail trading, you know, 90% of people just don't know what they're fucking doing. Like
yeah,
they should be just taken out and shot. But you know if you took the top 10% of retail traders, they're about the same.
yeah. Yeah, no,
You
I'm sure
know,
they were pretty good at their job. Otherwise, you know, they wouldn't have a job. um,
you don't get a lot of incompetence, but they're not any better. They're not like
yeah,
you know. I'm chatting in the other window. I'm chatting to a buddy of mine who's an ex-institutional trader, and you know, he just told me his last trading jobs are on where is it?
yeah. But it was really interesting learning about sort of, you know, how they trade supply and demand in electricity, and how electricity literally, how our electricity in the UK, you know, like where the lower demand is at nighttime, they tend to move to sort of hydroelectric power and that, and during the day it's like coal-fired and quick, you know, quick availability of electricity into the grid, and how literally if you have like a big football match, like a national football match at nighttime, like they literally see a spike in the electricity on the grid, like at half time when like the English all go to go make tea and coffee, you know what I mean? And they literally can see that, the spike, and they trade these demands.
All right, so we've got 1 minute
Yep.
to go in the
Yep.
thing. We need to be aware this could potentially, it probably won't, close as a lower close. So we need to prep this order just in case.
Well, it's setting up. We've got confirming evidence. We are, so the low on me is 600.
So it's 65 for 60, it's 5 for 5.5. So it's 65 for 70.5, which is below the old lows. That's an ideal trade.
And the
If it's
high is,
either ahead. So let's prep that order now, please.
yeah. And the highs, this is 1.08645.
Okay, so we're
And it might even end up as a retest. Yeah.
3, 2, 1, and placing the order.
Yeah, I'm on.
There you go. Nicely done. That's what I like to see. That is a nice trade.
Yep.
So what I'd like you to start doing is taking satisfaction. The goal here is to do it perfectly, right? So I'd like you to take satisfaction in when you do something right. Like you did something that was a difficult skill, and you did it absolutely perfectly under time pressure, and you did it like a boss. You couldn't get any better than that. Can't do any better than that.
Yep.
That's worthy of explicitly noticing and saying, oh, good, I got this.
Yep.
And now we've got to keep an eye on the time. We're 70 seconds away from potentially having to change that order. Personally, I wouldn't bother fucking with the position size. I'll just drag it down. I'll just drag it down.
Yeah, we might get a slightly better entry, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not worth being that. It's not worth being that fussy.
Yeah, because I know when we do trading in high, when we do the after the event, when we do the daily reviews on the charts, we're very specific, right? So it's actually taken me into this trade now. My platform takes me in slightly below the actual entry price by the looks of it. It's obviously because there's some sort of gapping.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not in, you're in.
So like the high is 644 on that candle, but yet I'm in the trade, which should be at 645. So my platform is not, I don't know if that's like a common thing, but it always seems to take me in one tick below the entry price.
Are you using stop limits?
No, I'm using a buy stop, so a pending order.
Oh, no, you stop limits. You don't want to pay the spread.
Yeah. So you're not in the trade, right?
No, not yet.
Yeah.
And what you're going to see is that we talked about these things evening out in the wash. You got a winning trade that I didn't, and now you might have a losing trade that I didn't.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
I think I'm going to get put in now. But also it becomes a much better trade after a little scare around. If it gets up to the entry point now, it's almost set to work.
Yeah.
Well, markets don't really try something 3 times and then try 4. If they try something 3 times and it doesn't work, like if it tries to go down 3 times, it's probably going to try going up at least.
Yeah. So again, I immediately can feel my anxious levels rising, my anxiety levels rising a bit.
So
definitely I can feel it in my chest. Not chest pain, but I can just feel the anxiety.
So let's just bounce back and forth, give you the number, and I'll say anxiety 3.
4.
Anxiety 2.
4.
Anxiety 3.
4.
Feeling strong feelings of delight and joy. Anxiety 2.
I'm still at 4.
Anxiety 1.
4.
Anxiety 3.
3.5.
Anxiety 1.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit better. So 3, probably up, definitely coming down a bit.
Okay, so the things I want you to understand about that process is that explicitly trying to force your anxiety down does not work.
Yeah.
So what happens is it just makes you even more anxious. You're
Yeah.
just letting it all happen. So another thing that I like to do when I feel that anxiety around a trade is talk to myself as though I'm like a 5-year-old kid. Go, okay, welcome anxiety, my old friend. Crippling anxiety. Stay as long as you want in my body. Use everything of mine. Just stay. You're always welcome to stay. Don't feel any pressure to leave. Just stay, anxiety. You can stay as long as you want. Don't feel any pressure to leave. And the feelings come and go. Right? Like that's the nature of feelings. the feelings stick around when you're unwilling to feel them.
Yeah.
If you're willing to feel whatever it is that's going on, then that's going to be gone like very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's definitely things that I'm going to work on. And my wife's very much into that sort of thing. She's very much into mindfulness. In fact, she's very much part of this. I don't know if you've heard of the 3 principles, which is really much about you are your thoughts. You know what I mean? And
Hey, you out of that trade.
yeah, all right. Okay, I wasn't watching the screen. Yeah. Okay, so we're out.
Yeah.
And you never went into it.
Never got into it.
Yeah.
So in a minute and a half, I'd like us to run right out to a minute and a half. And then I'd like us to stop because that's a good time for you. That's 2 hours of perfect trading, winning and losing, and perfect.
Yeah.
I think that's good. And let's.
So it's still about probably 1.5 hour up on the day.
It's not the point. The point is that we set out to do a thing, and the thing that we set out to do was not to make 1.5 hours. The thing we set out to do was for you to prove that you could trade perfectly, and no one in the world could trade the system better than you traded today because you traded it perfectly. And
Right.
I think that's a very
that's a great point to
It's something to celebrate. So fuck you, man. Same time tomorrow.
Cool, Scott.
All right.
How's the little one?
Tomorrow,
All good?
Yeah, it's just a lot of work for the wife.
Yeah.
Not a lot of work for me.
Is she good? Is she is she a sleeper? Is she doing good sleepy wise?
Yeah.
And
She's a good baby.
Good.
She's good.
Enjoy.
See you tomorrow, man.
All right.
Good job.
Take care. Cheers. Thanks, man.